Good morning. Tim Laurent, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the November 7th Board of County Commissioners meeting. And on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. And on my left is Commissioner Aaron Mays, who represents District 3. I'm Bill Rippon, and I represent District 1.
Good morning.
Good morning. First item.
First item is consent agenda.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we have vouchers that total $1,261,719.92. The highlight out of the voucher report of the highest amount was our CAPERS contributions for employees of $336,771.66, followed by Department of Corrections, $304,228.30. The highlight of that is the Horizon Health, health insurance for the jail, or health care for the jail. Holding accounts with the state of Kansas was $209,378.71. Health insurance premiums for our employees of $105,464.49. And then finally, the allocations to agencies of $27,500. There was also, under building and maintenance, Shirley Construction of $36,492 for automatic door closures at Maynard Conference Center, and under pass-through, Kelly Construction of $12,711.13 for the East Topeka Learning Center. I do not have any questions regarding the vouchers and would move for their approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item A2, you can consider correction orders. That's smooth transition from 2018 to 2019, so we're ready to go. So we now have correction orders.
Okay. Next item.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
I thought we no longer had them to the end of the year.
No, we have them back in, we have them again. We
Okay.
have them
We're back
back
in
in.
business.
Yeah, after the
Okay.
tax roll is done, we have them back on the record.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item A3, consider approval of resolution number 2019-82, authorizing a cereal malt beverage license for John's Food Center located at 5812 South Topeka Boulevard. And this is the annual beginning of our cereal malt beverage licenses. It has been approved or reviewed by the counselor's office. KBI has done their review, and Township has been notified, and there was a health inspection, and everything was we were notified of no problems anyplace. So we just recommend that this resolution be approved, so they have their license.
I'll move that it be approved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider approval of request to award the bid to Bleachers International for the construction of grandstands with ADA seating and press box at the Lake Shawnee Girls Fast Pitch Complex at a cost of $99,884, with funding from the Excess Reserve Fund and authorization and execution of contract C401-2019 for same.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby, Parks and Recreation. If you recall, back in February, you gave us permission to go out for bid for this project. We met with the low bidder, but that vendor, after discussing the project with him, could not meet the specs that we required without more compensation. So we went to the second one in line, which was Bleachers International, and we've investigated them and talked with them, and we're very pleased with their product. I'll give you a little brief rundown of these bleachers. It's going to be a 360-seat bleacher set at our main ball diamond at the girls softball complex. It will be ADA accessible with ADA cutouts. Our previous one did not have any of those things in it. Also, we'll have handrails throughout this bleachers. That was one request from the public that really needed to be done to our old one. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Randy, how does this relate to what we would have at the Bettis complex for the boys?
Very similar. We actually are building a press box is included in this. It's a 8 by 12 press box, similar to what we have on the boys' side. That way, as you know, Shawnee Heights uses this field, and radio and media also comes out there, so the press box is well needed.
How close are we getting to having equitable, the same, or close to the same on both the boys and the girls?
Very close. We are actually out for bid right now on the turf and the backstop project. We should be coming back to you in a couple weeks on that. And hopefully in 1 year, all 4 of those diamonds will have turf as well as new backstops.
What about restrooms and concessions?
That is a different project that's in the master plan, but right now we don't have the funding set aside for that, but we are looking into that.
I think that's something that's very important. That's something that's been called for a long time for the girls softball, is having restroom facilities and making sure that we have equity on both the boys and the girls.
I totally believe that, yes.
Are these bleachers, they're permanent bleachers, right?
Yes.
Okay, and how many rows are there?
Oh, it's, like I said, it's 360. I don't have the exact specs in front of me.
Okay, all right. Are the seats, are they all aluminum seats then?
Yes.
All right. I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor? All right. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B2, consider approval of request to award the bid to AB Creative for 3 shade umbrellas at Midwest Health Aquatic Center at a cost of $24,140, with funding from the 2015 COP funds and authorization and execution contract C402-2019 for same.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Libby again. In this past September, you gave us approval to go out for solicit bids for shade structures and an open air structure. These are for the shade structures, which are 3 cantilever. They're 20 foot by 8 feet, I believe. And they will provide shade, much needed shade that we need around our play structure side of the pool. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I'm glad to see this. There's very little shade out there, so this will be a good enhancement out there. I know any of the other pools where we have shade structure, that's where you see the majority of the moms hanging out and getting in the shade. So this is good.
And some dads, Bill.
And some dads. Most of the dads. All the dads. All right.
I'll move for approval of the award.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item.
Item B3, consider authorization and execution of contract C403-2019 with Cox Business to provide bandwidth upgrade to Shawnee North Community Center at a cost of $169.99 monthly, with funding from the Recreation Services Operations budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Susan Fowler-Hensler, Parks and Recreation. I'd like to start by first saying a thank you to our IT department. I see Mark Price back there, but IT is always very helpful when we are working with Cox Business to help us arrange for the services and agreement. This agreement before you is for the Shawnee North Community Center, and it basically mimics the agreement we have at all of our other community centers. We are just now having that opportunity to offer the availability of internet access. With this internet access, we will be able to provide resources at our centers, such as a safe and desirable place for the kids to do homework. We'll also have adults that can come in and do resumes, they can apply for jobs, they can take online courses. As you know, we have a great partnership with the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library, and our other centers all have a computer lab in those centers, and so we'll be able to expand to a 7th computer lab up at Shawnee North. This will allow more programming to be done. Right now, we have a group of seniors that do a few library computer programs, so this will be able to expand it. They've just been using little hotspots until this is approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you.
So this is just for our computers that people can use, is that right?
This will be for public access computers.
Okay.
So also, if you're in a lot of people at Shawnee North, they do come and drive and bring their kids to dance class, karate class. They pretty much stay there. So this will allow their other kids to be able to do their homework, or they can get online and see their social media, or
Do we at any of our rec centers do we have the capability of someone bringing their own laptop in and hotspot?
Yes, especially now that 501 issues laptops to all the kids, that has actually, there for a little bit, we saw a decrease in our computer labs from the library until we were recently able to upgrade those. But the kids will bring in their laptops after school and just use those to do their homework. You'll see parents doing business while they're waiting for their kids taking classes. That was never available up at the Shawnee North Center.
So we'll have that at all the rec centers now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item.
Item C, Public Works, number 1, consider approval of request to fill a bridge maintenance position at a salary including benefits of $44,009.67, and to fill any position that becomes vacant as a result of filling this position.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. We have a rare vacancy in our bridge maintenance crew, and we'd like to fill it. These people go around the county, they clean the bridge decks, they take care of scour problems. They're just general maintenance people that keep our bridges in good condition. So, questions?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item C2, consider approval of request to issue a request for design, build, priced proposals for a qualified design build team to facilitate the installation of a new teacup grit removal unit for the Sherwood wastewater treatment plant with an estimated project cost of $520,000 with funding from the Sherwood Regional Wastewater District.
Good morning again. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. We've been talking about the Sherwood wastewater treatment system for quite a while now, a couple months. And although we haven't secured our $7 million loan, I know Audit Finance is working on it, and I think they're getting close to making a formal submittal. Nevertheless, KDHE has allowed us to move forward with those projects, getting a contractor on board for the design-build project and a consultant on board for the remaining projects. So this item before you is to bring on a consultant designer team for the replacement of the teacup at the wastewater treatment plant. Any questions?
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item C3, consider approval of a request to issue a request for proposals for a qualified consultant team to provide professional design and construction services for the critical wastewater system rehabilitation projects located around Lake Sherwood as a part of the Sherwood Regional Wastewater District at an estimated project cost of $6,480,000 with funding from the Sherwood Regional Wastewater District.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Again, this is part of the $7 million KDHE loan, except for the teacup project, which we just talked about. This covers all the remaining projects. It covers the 4, what I call easy pump station replacements. It covers the 2 difficult pump station replacements, difficult being because they're in people's backyards, they're down by the lake, they're relatively deep structures, and they involve a collection system that runs under a finger of the lake. And then it includes the collection system in the region of 37th and Nottingham up to beyond the dam, which is a critical piece of the whole system. As a kind of supplemental or conditional part of this design contract, we may add on the assessment of the treatment plant and upgrade, which is a $7 million or a $1 million project. We may add that to this contract at some point, but at this time, again, it is supplemental or conditional because we want to see how the other 3 projects go before we commit ourselves to this wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Questions?
I know it's been a couple of weeks or maybe a month or 2, but if you can again just kind of walk us through very briefly, why is this a responsibility of Shawnee County Commission? Why is it necessary now? And what would be the outcome if we don't approve this request at this point?
Well, it's the responsibility of the Shawnee County Commission to approve these projects because the treatment system, its ultimate operation, its ultimate upkeep, is the responsibility of Shawnee County and ultimately the commissioners, I guess. The reason that we're doing this now is because these critical components are old enough and are in such a condition, and they have, when you consider the risk of failure, now is the time to take care of these projects, to address them. Failure to do so, failure to be proactive, could be a catastrophic failure where we have the KDHE coming down on us in a not-so-friendly manner and telling us these need to be replaced, and possibly expending a tremendous amount of money to bypass these failures.
And then finally, where does the Sherwood Water Treatment Board intersect with the Shawnee County Commission, and who's ultimately responsible for the payment of these?
Well, all of these, the KDHE loan, the repayments, all of this work that's associated with this KDHE loan will ultimately be repaid using user fees that are these are users that are on the Sherwood treatment system. There will be no county taxpayer funds associated with these projects, with this loan repayment. It will strictly be funded by user fees. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Where does the Sherwood Wastewater Board, what's their role in this?
Well, I'm not sure. I've come before you with proposed projects. The decision-making is the counties, the commission.
I mean, because there's an elected board in Sherwood. What do they do? Again, just for the public's information, because we recently had an election where people were elected to that board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crow, Shawnee County Councilor. You're talking about the Sherwood Improvement District Board,
Okay.
which this system serves residents in the Sherwood Improvement District. However, this is a sewer district, a separate legal entity. By state statute, it's one of the quirks that are all throughout Kansas law when it comes to local government. But a sewer district, the Board of County Commissioners is the governing body for that sewer district. So you are the board for that district. When you make decisions regarding this system, you're not doing it on behalf of the entire county. You're doing it on behalf of this system, and everything is financed by user fees, not by general fund money or general taxpayers of Shawnee County.
So the Cliff Notes version is it's paid for by the users. There's no one else that would be able to issue this authorization, and the buck stops here as to getting it fixed.
Correct, and we need to do it now. because it's cheaper to do it now before it fails rather than waiting for it to completely fail.
Very good. Thank you.
We are responsible for maintenance, and the city operates, is that correct?
We have a contract with the city to maintain the system. We are the ones that ultimately are responsible for upkeep and repair of the infrastructure.
I have a question.
Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, we have one.
Kurt, on the, just for clarification, is it, my understanding is that the teacup is a separate item because it's a design build?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, these other remaining projects will be the standard design bid built, how we build our streets and bridges, same process.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item.
Item D, Sheriff's Office, number 1, consider approval of the creation of a Director of Budget and Purchasing at a salary of $36.34 an hour effective July 1, 2019.
Good morning, Commissioners. Under Sheriff Jay Sameka. Need to identify a couple corrections to how this agenda item was written. First being that this is not a creation of a new position. This is going to be a reclassification of a current position. And the title of this position is not Director of Budget and Purchasing, but Budget and Purchasing Officer. Basically, the existing position is Accounting Manager. The Accounting Manager will assume purchasing duties. The reason for the reclassification is with the additional duties, so we believe additional compensation should be made for this position. The purchasing has normally been handled or traditionally been handled by a staff level officer. So in our case, a lieutenant has been doing the purchasing for the agency for a number of years. In order to streamline our accounting processes, we'd like to take that lieutenant out of that mix, being the middleman, put him back into an operational set where he is supervising more of the day-to-day operations and not purchasing, and then put purchasing with accounting. It just makes sense for us as a practical business application, and that's what we're requesting. I'll stand for any questions.
We often see requests for reclassification, and a common question is, are you doing a reclassification just as a way of giving somebody a raise that they would not otherwise be entitled to? And so in this case, you are adding additional job duties?
That is correct, Commissioner. Yes, a significant amount, actually. In fact, the duties were consistent with one staff level officer's day-to-day duties.
Okay.
So,
Again, just for the public's information,
Absolutely.
this is not just a way to get somebody a raise otherwise. And so
Correct.
they're staying at the same salary range, that being at 69.
Yes.
And you're establishing the step at step 12.
that is correct, yes. Which is approximately $10,000 increase over what the individual made before, but with the additional duties, that warrants that increase, in our opinion.
Is this salary, is it comparable to other salaries in other departments for people doing the same job?
Well, we have worked with Angela Lewis, Director of Human Resources, in analyzing the totality of what's going on here. Prior to the additional duties, it was in line with compensation of like duties. With the additional duties, we feel additional compensation. We have discussed that with both Angela Lewis and Audit Finance, and believe this is an amicable agreement.
What does this do then for that lieutenant? If the lieutenant is no longer going to be in charge of the purchasing, and you're shifting that duty to your account manager,
Mhm.
you said it frees them up. What does it free
Sure.
them up to do?
Okay, so whenever we have span of control for officers, we want to reduce that span of control for our staff level officers too. Instead of overseeing 3 different units, roughly 30 officers and civilian employees, if we are reducing that span of control for lieutenants, they can focus on and actually be operational. So in this case, that we are kind of classifying what that person does internally. They're still a lieutenant with the sheriff's office. However, they might incur supervision duties over different units that previously went from sergeant to the purchasing lieutenant, who by name was in charge of that unit, but didn't provide that oversight because they were busy doing purchasing. So now we are eliminating that purchasing so that lieutenant can focus on actually supervising personnel instead of managing items, shuffling papers, buying things, being on the phone with vendors, that type of thing.
Who does this person report to?
The position right now is going to be an unclassified position. That means it's an at-will employee to the sheriff. So with our budget being over $19 million and incurring, obviously, that responsibility of managing that, the planning, the analytics, forecasting, quarterly spending practices, all that stuff, essentially answers to the sheriff. However, we have the major who has oversight over all operations, and so that person works closely with the major, myself, and the sheriff.
I understand that in speaking with HR, that this will need to have not just an acknowledgement, but an actual approval of the creation of the new position.
That's my understanding, Commissioner.
So,
You're budgeted for this position. You have the,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Good morning, Angela Lewis with Human Resources. You are correct. This is a reclassification, but it does need permission from the commission to be reclassified.
I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made to approve this request, seconded by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner May. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E, Human Resources, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-404-2019 with the City of Topeka for use of their fitness center, which includes a $20 enrollment fee and a minimum quarterly fee of $375 for the first 25 employees.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. This will be the second year of our pilot program with the city. We're very appreciative of them allowing us to do this for our employees. They've generously come down from an annual enrollment fee to just a $20 enrollment fee and reduced their cost from $1,000 quarterly to $375 quarterly. And I'd ask that you approve this contract.
I'll move to approve the authorization of the request.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Item F, Stormontville Event Center, number 1, consider approval of request to waive the Shawnee County Purchasing Resolution, HR 2014-1, so HTK Architects and Spectra have the authority to solicit bids.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Spectra Venue Management in the Stormontville Event Center. What we're asking for today is a waiver of the purchasing resolution for the ability to purchase all of the FF&E items that are in the renovation. If you remember, last year, the project budget was set at $365,000 for fixed furniture and equipment for the renovation project. That includes things like point-of-sale systems, furniture that goes into the new in-zone bar, TVs and display systems for digital menu boards for the new concession stands, and so on and so forth. The purchase was made last year for the point-of-sale system as that system was rapidly becoming out of date and no longer functional. That followed the county purchasing policy, and that system was purchased last year at $111,000, which left us a balance, of $253,000 left in that fixed furniture and equipment account. What we're asking for today is your allowance or your approval to allow HTK and Spectra to solicit, negotiate, and acquire the remaining pieces of that project. And the reason for that is there are certain pieces of the FF&E that we need to get immediately, and certain pieces of the FF&E that can hold off a little while. There's a number of FF&E items that go into that list, not just specifically for land and arena, but also for Domer and the livestock facilities. And that is the reason we're asking for that request. HTK has done a very diligent job in sourcing those pieces of equipment with gaining 3 bids from vendors. The reason why we need to get some of this ordered immediately is in the end zone bar. The tables and the railing system that go in that end zone bar are a bit higher than initially anticipated, which cut into the sightline views of the chair size that was initially spec'd for that space. So we had to increase the chair size, which would be a special order item for that space to allow our patrons to get up elevated over that railing system that doesn't impede their view for viewing of all the events there that take place. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that you might have.
Kellen, I'll be very candid. I'm very, a little bit concerned about this request. There's a delicate balance between too much oversight and not enough oversight. And so what you're asking for at this time is for us to give a blank check to go out and purchase without any oversight, while the county commissioners are ultimately the ones responsible and making sure that we're getting the best furniture that will outlast a Spectra contract. We're
Sure.
anticipating this to last for some time. And so just anticipating where the balance is between our purchasing policy and what oversight the commissioners would have as to the furniture that we're going to be living with for quite some time.
Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. We did have a meeting with Spectra and HTK and Jim Crowell and myself, and we did talk about the purchasing policy and the need to get the 3 bids, and that this process will still, they will still adhere to the same process. We also talked about the fact that of course, since this is for the renovation, we will be paying those bills, and they will have to send to us the documentation of the bids that they did go out and get. So so we are keeping that control, that they cannot just, pick a vendor and go with that. They have to look at multiple vendors on these items. It's just a way to expedite the process as much as anything. So I don't know if that gives you some level of comfort.
And I don't believe that Spectra would ever do anything that would be not in the best interest of the Stormont Vale Event Center. But at the same time, earlier in the meeting, we approved a request for $300,000 for bleachers at Bettis for the women's softball. And that came before the commission on a bid because the commissioners are ultimately responsible for what's installed. And so in this case, I think there needs to be a level of oversight that continues. I know you go through the advisory board for those sorts of things. So how is the advisory board maybe still being involved in these purchases, or are they completely out of it as well?
We typically have not brought any FF&E purchase items to the advisory board. The advisory board oversight has traditionally surrounded around capital improvement projects, any capital expense budget that we have, and or emergency repairs that are needed at the facility from an infrastructural standpoint.
I know that historically, I mean, the county commission has, over time, had different roles. And in some projects, the county commission picked the color and fabric for courtroom chairs, down to, the color of the lawnmowers that they would be used for parks and recreation. There were other times where it was go out and get the best bid.
Yep.
And so I know that over time, the county commission has not always had the same consistency in their voice. But this is one that we're going to be living with for a long time, and so I understand expediency and needing to get out immediately and get these open, but at the same time, I think there should be some communication as to what's being purchased, and I don't know if there can be a balance in there.
Sure. I think the main reason that we're asking for the waiver of the traditional policy is there's, about 18 separate items that we would need to be bringing before you. The main one being the chairs at the end zone bar. The chairs at the end zone bar are a 6-week lead time. That space was delivered to us yesterday. We were initially anticipating through multiple weekly meetings with the construction team as well as our operational team that the chairs and the infrastructure that we had in place was going to be able to satisfy the needs of the customer. Unfortunately, after the installation of some of those railings and the tables, we quickly realized that what our expectation was from those meetings was not actually going to be met. And that is a main concern that we really need to get that piece kind of moving along quickly. What tailored and dovetailed into that were all the other pieces of the project that are getting delivered to us over the next couple of weeks, where we could source this equipment a little bit quicker. By no means are we trying to sole source any of these vendors. I think we've been very diligent in trying to make sure that even the county's involvement from an IT standpoint and audit finance and the county councilor's point, just to make sure that we're going above and beyond to make it very apparent that there are multiple vendors on every piece of the FF&E and making sure those products do outlast the term of our contract. Probably more so, as some of them are fairly pricey, but that commercial equipment is what is needed in the space.
Like I said, my concern is really principally the standard that we're setting today. When the treasurer's office comes to us in 6 months and asks to waive purchasing because they want to buy new chairs for the treasurer's office and not go through the standard process, or Parks and Rec wants to, and once we open the door, it's going to be open to all departments, and then our purchasing policy will really have little to no meaning as to when it's enforced, or it will appear arbitrary and capricious as to when it's enforced. That's the first concern. But the second concern is, ultimately, what is the oversight as to the commission in making sure that we're getting the best product? And so the other commissioners may have greater insight.
Kellen, were our architects involved in writing the specs for this? Picking out these?
So the architects are involved in writing the specs of the space. The actual equipment was tailored to fit the specs of the space. I don't know that they actually write the specs for the specific equipment itself.
So who did that?
Well, it was a collaboration of what was needed in the space and what vendors can provide. So they have a number of vendors that they utilize. Some of it mainly on the furniture standpoint. Spectra, as an example, we do not have a furniture vendor that we typically or normally would work with. But architects that build these buildings and deal with FF&E on a lot of their builds do have those sourcing requirements, and so they take that out to those vendors and get the specs of the items that are needed in the space.
Jim Crowell, Shawnee County Councilor. I want to throw in 2 points just to throw into the mix of consideration. One thing, and Kellen was getting right close to it, HTK as architects has the ability through the work that they do to negotiate discounts in purchasing for these types of items. They have access to discounts that we as a county do not. That's one piece. Another piece is, in the interim, we are renting chairs at the facility to be able to use the space. That our construction manager accelerated the project to deliver these portions of the space to us more quickly, so we could use it more quickly. And that's part of why didn't you have this in place before? We did not know about the need for the higher chairs until the rails were actually installed and you could actually see what it is. So part of the savings in accelerating the acquisition is we will not have to rent chairs as long. and there's a cost to that.
Mr. Chairman, but couldn't that argument be applied to any department, on any project, on anything? I mean, speed and needing to get we hear that from Parks and Recreation on a daily basis. We need to get this last week. We need this on the agenda today. We need us to get an addition to the agenda today, because if we don't get it on today, we won't be able to do ABC activity.
I think sometimes that argument's going to be valid and sometimes it's not. Sometimes your question is this a problem of your own creation by procrastinating on doing it? What we're telling you on this situation, it's not a problem of procrastination. It is a happy problem based on the fact that our construction manager was able to put additional resources into the project at no additional cost to us to accelerate the delivery of these portions of the arena to us. And so we find ourselves in a situation where we're renting chairs to fit, and we're trying to save the taxpayers money by avoiding a lengthy RFP process.
And my apologies to Parks and Recreation, they don't do that.
I understand your point.
Yeah. But Betty, I mean, your thoughts as, I mean.
Well,
as the
it will
finance-
still be your decision when to waive the policy. I do believe that in this case, we still have the basics in place of getting multiple bids, looking at those bids, and looking at the best prices. This is not just a thing that we're just going to waive it and go to one person or one vendor that they are, So we're trying to put in place the items that are essential or, to the purchasing policy, and so that we have as much as that purchasing policy in place by allowing them to do this without going through all of the hoops that they have to normally.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I guess, I don't know, one of you. It says here that this is the remaining balance of the renovation FF&E funds. I mean, I guess, why is there a remaining balance? Was this not intended to be purchased anyways?
So the FF&E fund started at $365,000. All of the items that are in proposal to be purchased through this resolution are originally spec'd in the FF&E space. The reason there's a remaining balance is the point of sale system that our concessionaire and food and beverage provider operates at the facility was originally in this project. However, the need to accelerate that piece of infrastructure in the facility became very apparent when we started losing machines. The infrastructure on the repair of those machines was no longer available. You couldn't get parts. We couldn't fix those machines. So we had to take that piece of the FF&E out to bid very quickly. That followed the regular county purchasing policy. We took it out to RFP. We got 3 bids. We brought that back before you. The commission approved the vendor that we went forward with, and that left the remaining balance of the FF&E.
So, you said that the reason to do this is because the chairs need to be a different height. I mean, explain to me, what was the plan initially?
So the plan initially was to get the space delivered. The space that we're talking about is the end zone bar and party deck area and the loge box seating. The space was due to be delivered to us on November the 4th. That has always been the timeline. We knew that we weren't going to have all of the infrastructure for the chairs in advance of that time. However, through a number of monthly meetings, weekly meetings over a number of months, our plan was to utilize the current chairs that we have in stock at the facility to supplement until the new chairs were provided for that space. After the code requirement for the railing system that went in, at a 42-inch height. When you're sitting in a chair, much like the ones in this room that are at an 18 to 20-inch height, your sight line is right in the middle of the railing system. That would keep you from keep patrons from crossing that plane or falling over a ledge or something there about. So that was the original plan. That plan was vetted through our operational team, our construction team, and HTK. Everybody thought that we were going to be able to use that, and that was going to suffice in the interim until we got the new infrastructure in place. It became quickly apparent when we got those rails up and we took the chairs out there to kind of sit and test it, that it was not going to work. Your sight line was right in those rails. And so the chairs that we had to spec, we had to go back to the drawing board and get a certain chair height that allowed for a 26-inch to a 32-inch chair height that allows patrons to move up and down at their leisure to get the best sight line for that space.
Okay, you had also mentioned that this was not just for the chairs, it's also for televisions and things like that.
Correct.
Has that plan changed at all, or?
Nope. We've gotten a number of bids for our digital menu displays. That was already always in the project. Those TVs that will go around the concourse will go up above every concession stand. It will be a digital menu board offering, very similar to the TV in this room, and very similar to actually the court TVs that indicate where certain departments are on floors and what meetings are in which offices. It allows us to control the infrastructure and the messaging behind those TVs from a centralized point of location, whether it be our food and beverage provider or our marketing team, and all those TVs are networked together to be able to disseminate the messaging at each individual location for specific content. We have gotten a number of bids for that service, so that piece is in the project. Other pieces that are in the project include things like furniture for the mother's room, nursing station, the first aid station, some additional stall barn equipment, which is stall paneling and metal railings in Domer Arena. Those are all pieces that were originally put into the FF&E items when the renovation project was approved.
So all of those have already gone out for bids then, or?
No. The main things that are going out for bid now, or that we're soliciting bids for, were the items that are immediately taking place in land and arena, as those are the spaces that are being turned over to us sooner rather than later.
Okay. Jim had mentioned that we're currently renting tables and chairs. How much is that costing, and where's that money coming from?
Sure. So it's just chairs. That the source of those chairs is a vendor that we utilize for a lot of our event space rentals. It's Helgerson's out of Wichita. The reason that we went with Helgerson's out of Wichita is because no localized source had the amount of chairs that we needed at the correct height that we needed. So there are 106 chairs that are currently being rented. They're getting delivered as I sit here and talk to you, and they are costing us about $1,300 every event that we utilize those chairs. So we have 4 events that we're utilizing them for over the next 5 weeks. That is our current timeline of utilizing that chair system. It's a little over $5,300 total.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman? Why would we need to go out and waive purchasing for all of the items? And why not just waive the purchasing for the chairs that are the highest priority, but maintain the policy for the rest of the items?
Mainly because we felt it was probably going to be an easier approach to just go out and get the bids for everything at once. If we bring everything back to you, that's going to be essentially a number of times that we're bringing that back for your approval and trying to expedite the process. The big reason here that we're asking for this is so we can get the infrastructure quickly. items that are in the suites that will be delivered to us. One of them is currently built. It's just waiting the FF&E to finalize. The other two will be built by the end of the year or the first week of January. If we can get that infrastructure in, then those spaces get delivered to the clients that purchase them as soon as we get them. So the big priority here was just trying to get a lot of this equipment as fast as possible.
And
I had one piece on the monitors. We will be able to save money by moving forward with the monitors now because the company that is doing, the subcontractor that's doing the cabling that connects all of them is already on site, and Kellen's staff was going to do the physical installation of the monitors at the same time to save money that way. It'll cost a little extra money if we go through the entire process and then have to bring the subcontractor back on site. So that was our thought process regarding the monitors. Just wanted to throw that in.
I guess, just for clarification, if we're going out and getting bids, and we're getting competitive bids, why not just waive the purchasing policy to bring those competitive bids back to the commission for approval? Would we have an undue delay in doing that? So the only waiving of the purchasing policy is in the solicitation of the bids.
I agree that that's a possibility. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that it takes a week to get it on the agenda. So, and then we don't have a meeting next week. I don't know, I think they are ready to go with these chair bids. If a delay for, a week and a half is not a problem, then I think that might be a very good alternative.
How about we waive the 1-week waiting period for the agenda, and as soon as you have it, we could do it on the agenda for Monday, the 18th, if you have the bids back before then. So we would be looking at coming back on the 18th for that approval, or the 21st, what may have you.
We could likely do that. Most all the bids are already secured for everything that's immediately needed in Landon. In fact, I think some additional bids came in this morning from the county's IT department or the purchasing department on a couple of items that the county's discounts were able to get cheaper than HTK. So I think we can probably have that over to you today.
So then by having it in today, we would have it as an agenda item, understanding there may be an update to the agenda if items are coming in at a later time. And I know that's more work on our staff, but
If we get it in today, then it'll be on the agenda that goes out to the 18th, so 18th, because we don't meet next week.
okay. So then the only thing that we would be waiving then is just the bidding process, but it would still be the formalized bidding process. But you would be bringing the bids back for a final approval on the 18th.
Correct. In that scenario, I can't guarantee that we won't have to rent the chairs on the end zone bar for another 2 events. There's 2 events. One has yet to be announced and will be announced on Monday for events taking place in December. So we're trying to avoid as much of the unnecessary rental costs as we can. But that may happen.
But you're looking at signing a contract today versus signing a contract on the 18th.
Correct. The 5 to 6 week lead time puts us right at that second week of December currently. If there is a delay for any holiday shipping or manufacturing, we could hit a rental.
Might I offer a compromise of maybe waiving it for the chairs only, and then everything else comes back on the 18th? Would that be a possibility?
Do you have this as a bulk one item, or do you have it as broken into components?
we could do either or. It's right now, the chairs can be individualized out of that bulk furniture process.
And is there going to be an increase in cost in doing that?
Likely in shipping, yes.
Do you know what that cost increase is going to?
I don't have a number for that, but I can try and make sure I get that by the end of today.
That would be, if we can either do it all on the 18th, or if we're looking at expediting, doing the chairs, waiving the purchasing for the chairs, and then having everything else brought back on the 18th. I think there should be transparency in the bidding process regardless.
I could get behind that. I mean, when we're looking at $1,300 per event, the shipping, I can't imagine would be more than $2,600 if we're going to add 2 more events. So, I'd be okay with that.
So I'll make a motion to waive the purchasing policy as to the chairs, and then ask that the formal bidding process be waived for the FF and E, with those items to come before the commission on the 18th for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item G, Commission Number 1, consider appointment of Michael R. Munson to the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority for a 4-year term expiring October 31, 2024.
Commissioners, I'm nominating Michael Munson to the Airport Authority. A bit of a correction, though. It does say in here it's a 4-year term expiring 2024. It's actually to fill out the remainder of a term of someone who has resigned from the board, so I believe it'll be 2021. October 31st, 2021 would be the expiration, and then he would be up for reappointment at that time for a 4-year term. So Mr. Munson is an attorney, and I think he's Senior Vice President, General Counsel for Central National Bank. He's also a pilot, and I think he'd be a good fit for the board.
I agree. I'll second the motion to approve him for the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Okay. This time we open it up to the public for any comments on any subject.
Commissioners, my name is Dick Ketterman, and as both a constituent of yours and a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, I know a lot of times people show up at these meetings, city council and county, to make complaints. And this time I'm up here to both applaud what Parks and Rec did with listing certain parks that we could get started on right away, especially with playground equipment. And thanks to y'all for approving the budget for that. And that's the only reason I'm up here. Sometimes we need to say thanks, too.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
Real quick, sorry. One of the largest events that we produce every year starts today. It is the Blizzard Bash Demolition Derby. We do have a lot of fun, fancy new spaces delivered to us for the event this year, with the end zone bar and the party deck area, and all of the seating conversions. So welcoming everybody in the community out to that event. It is today through Sunday, and we will see about a little over 15,000 patrons over the course of the next 4 days. So excited to have that one coming back. And then we have a number of events that we're announcing over the next 2.5 weeks. So stay tuned for some of that. We'll have an announcement on Monday as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Parks and Rec? No. All right. All right. Commissioner Cook?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Mays?
Well, I wore my Topeka High bat pin today. In the playoffs, they're going to beat Lawrence on Friday, so good luck to them.
I'll be there. I have nothing to add today. There is a need for an executive session, so I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for a period not to exceed 10 minutes to discuss employer-employee negotiations, whether or not, in consultation with representatives or representatives of the public body or agency, specifically to discuss pending negotiations with AFSCME. No action is expected at this time.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. We are in executive session.
Yes.
Our executive session's over, and no action was taken at this time. So we're adjourned. Sign everything.
Actually,
That one has two, it has, this needs to go back to him because he has additional stuff to sign besides just the